All right, we are back and ready for our regular language lesson today. So I have just a couple things here, but I have a bag. And when I look at this bag, I could say this bag, isn't this cute? Miss Phelan got this for me. Isn't that pretty? Little mermaid. When I look at this bag, I can say this is a small bag, or maybe I could say it is a big bag. It depends on kind of what it might be compared to. Think about that word for a little bit. But I could say this is a big bag or a small bag. Both big and small are what? They are adjectives that could describe this bag. This is my small bag, or this is my big bag. But like I said, this being big or small would be when it is compared to another bag. This is the bag that the Nichols family gave me. You see, it even says it inside. Love the Nichols. That was for Christmas. Isn't that sweet? So when I compare my smaller big bag to this bag, which is it now? This bag would be not small, but smaller than this bag. So when I compare two things together, I'm going to use ER to compare these two things. So this bag is smaller than this bag, or I could go opposite and say this bag is bigger than this bag. Okay, so when I'm looking at two things and I'm comparing them, that's how I would use that with ER to show smaller or bigger. Okay, we can do it with other things. Okay, I've got my little soaps and hand sanitizers. Very important for this time during quarantine to have your soap and your sanitizer. Thankfully, I've had some of these stored up for a while. But when you look at this, it might not be bigger or smaller. I could say this soap is taller than this one. This one is shorter. So when we are comparing, when we are comparing two things together, we're going to use ER to show taller, shorter, bigger, smaller, okay? This one, we could do big, bigger, or whatever. We're gonna use this a little bit later, but when I look at this, this is what Mrs. Nichols and Allie got me for Christmas. And I look at this little thing and I just I love my my nail polishes and things, but this one, it's smaller, but in my mind, it's cuter. Isn't it so cute? It's so little. So this is cuter than this. I mean, they're great. They're both the same. They're both OPI, great nail polish. But this one is cuter than this one because it's a tiny little cute little. Okay, let me stop because the video is still running. So when we are comparing two things together, we are going to use ER to show bigger or smaller or taller or shorter or cuter. Okay, you're going to use the ER to show that to add that suffix in there with the comparing that adjective, because that is an adjective. Okay, and we're going to use the ER. And you can look here, I wrote some words on the board, and let me get closer. I wrote big, bigger, but we haven't gotten to this one yet. Okay, when we're just comparing two, we're going to just be ER with our, for our suffix. Okay, and then I have here small and smaller, which is a little bit harder to see because it is smaller. So when we're comparing two things, we use hyphen ER, sorry, didn't realize I was that close, hyphen ER as our adjective comparison. So I, Miss Monroe, am taller than Jackson. Okay, he's pretty tall. I think you guys said maybe I think is he one of the tallest, right, in our class? But I am taller than Jackson, okay? Also because I'm older. But we're not going to talk about that part. We could say Elsie's pencil, well, we don't use these kind of pencils, but Elsie's pencil is longer than Josie's pencil, okay? Now, we don't use our regular pencils because Miss Monroe makes you use mechanical all the time, so we don't usually compare that, but that would be a comparison because there's two people and we're comparing their pencils. This last sentence that they actually have on the paper is actually true. Today is colder than yesterday. So we're comparing two things together, and when we do compare two things, we use -er as our suffix. Yeah, my hands are cold right now because today is colder, at least in my house, than it was yesterday. So when we compare two things, what do we use? -er. When we compare two things together, we use -er. Good. Then we have now, this was big, this one's bigger, but now we have a third that we added. And when we add three things, we compare three or more things, then we are going to use -est. So this was big, this one was bigger because that's the second, but the third is the biggest, okay? We don't say, you know, oh, this bag is big, this bag is biggest than this one. No, this bag is bigger than this one. But if I take this bag compared to the others, well, this bag is bigger, but now this bag is the biggest because we compared three things together, okay? Or more, because guess what? This is the smallest, okay? But guess what? It's really not. Look at this. Oh, it's even smaller. So I have the smallest. This one is bigger. This one is even bigger, but this one is still definitely the biggest, okay? So when we compare two things, bigger, smaller, but when we compare more, three or more, then we have smallest and biggest to largest, okay? And that's what we would use, -est. And you can see that I did that here also with our smaller, smallest, way over there, okay? And same thing, I will take my, sanitizers, and I had my small one, and this one was taller, but now this one is the tallest. So tallest to smallest, because now I'm not just comparing two, I'm comparing three of them, okay? So when I'm comparing three or more, that's what we have. Now, I also, and I know I don't have to do this because it's just like wasting time, but it's not really, because it's important that you learn this. You guys are going to be in on something that most people don't normally, especially in my classrooms, get to see, because I only wear certain shoes because there are only certain ones that are comfortable. But I have my little flip-flop here, which, you know, it's got a little bit of a heel to it, so it's not completely flat. So it's high. But when I compare it with this one, this heel obviously is higher than my sandal heel, okay? But, Miss Monroe loves shoes. When I compare this shoe heel to them, this one is the highest that I have. So we have small, or like short, taller, tallest, or small, higher, highest, okay? The highest heel that I have, the lowest, I guess we could say, yeah, lowest to the highest, okay? So you guys got to see a little bit of Miss Monroe's shoe collection. Not everybody gets to see that. You're fortunate. All right, so now we've got some words here that we are going to make, either changing them with 2 or with 3. So I have wet. How am I going to make wet into a comparison with 2 things? I could actually use my clean or the board wipers. This one I used yesterday, so it's dry now. This one now is going to be what? Wetter than the other. So when I'm comparing 2 of them, it's going to be wetter, W-E-T-T-E-R. Now, why do I do 2 T's? Remember, yes, I think I heard some of you second grade that were there last year in second grade that you know, because it's a short vowel sound. When I have my short vowel sound, I have to double my consonants. So wet becomes wetter with 2 T's. Otherwise, it would be weeter, and that would be weird. And we don't want to be weird. Well, we do. I like to be weird, but only at specific times. So we just don't want to be weird randomly, okay? So wet becomes wetter. And then if I used a brand new, this one is starting to get a little dry. If I used a brand new wipe, it would be the wettest. Very good. And again, double the T's because it's a short vowel sound. Now, like I told you, we were going to see this again because this is so much cuter than this one, right? So cute. And then cuter. But are we going to double our T's for cuter? No, because it's not a short vowel sound. It's long. So it's just going to be C-U-T-E-R. We get rid of the E, even though the E is still there for our ER, but it's -ER. So we get rid of our E and add -ER because it's long sound, long vowel. And if we were going to do Q-test, same thing, C-U-T-EST, okay? Because it's long vowel, we do not double the consonants. Then we come down, and the next word that we have is, yeah, you can see it kind of, is fast. And because we have just the 2 consonants with each other with that short sound, we just put ER, -ER after fast, faster. And then, obviously, if we're comparing 3, if we said, or if we're comparing more, we said, if we got to field day, we could say, oh boy, Evan is the fastest boy in the class, okay? We would use fastest, EST, okay? Then we have sticky. That is something Miss Monroe does not like to be at all. But if we have sticky, we have to get rid of that Y, just like we did with our making words plural. We get rid of that I, that Y changes to guess what? Just like in our plurals, it changes to an I. Sticky, and then we add the ER, stickier. So when you have that Y at the end of your word, you poof the Y again, change it to I, and then we're not adding ES, we're adding ER or EST. That is the stickiest I have ever been in my life, and I hated it, okay? So when you are comparing your adjectives, I want you to remember ER for 2 and 3 or more -EST. Big, bigger, biggest, small, smaller, smallest. And then remember the rules. Short vowel sound, double your consonants. Long vowel sound, get rid of that extra, get rid of that E, okay, because that's a silent E, and then add the ER. Fast, because you've got your 2 consonants together, you're just going to add your EST or ER at the end. And then sticky, you have to poof that Y, change it to I, and then add your suffix either ER or EST. Okay, I think you guys are ready for your page. Work carefully because this video has gotten very long, but work carefully on page 152. Add ER to an adjective comparing two nouns, EST when comparing three or more. They give you the sentences there, and then they show you the rules. When a root word ends with one consonant and the vowel is short, you're going to double the consonant before adding your suffix. When a root word ends with a silent E, drop that silent E before you add the suffix, which we talked about. When a root word ends with a Y and a consonant and a Y, poof the Y, change it to I before you add your ending at with your ER or EST. So what you are doing for Think A, taking the words warm, nice, yummy, flat, and making them comparison words with ER and EST, okay? And then at the bottom, you're going to fill in the correct adjective for that. Look carefully because it's going to give you hints as to whether it's two things you're comparing or whether it's three. So there is going to be a right answer and a wrong answer for those. So make sure you're looking at those carefully. All right, do your best on this today. Excited to get the rest of the day going with you guys. Hope you're doing well with everything so far. See you soon.